Today we're going to learn how to finger the chromatic scale. We presented how to finger the chromatic scale. Thank you.
You should actually talk like that.
You want me to talk with a fake British accent?
Don't talk with a fake British accent.
This is how to finger a chromatic scale. You put your thumb, this over here.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Hello everybody! Hi. 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 Hello. Okay. So before we even go in, I think there are some basic tips that I want to cover just to make sure that we have on this video. So number one is put the time and put the fingerings in. You guys can see here, Ezra has been doing great job putting fingerings in. How long did it take me to convince you to put the fingerings in?
I actually think that the problem is that you changed the fingering there. Okay. You're going to get the spiel that all my kids get. Do not change the fingerings. Whatever fingerings you've been practicing, that's the fingering you're going for. If you can't get that fingering, change it. But do not change fingerings between takes because you're getting your hand all confused. Don't forget the fingerings, Ezra. Ezra, don't forget the fingerings. Thank you.
4 years?
4 years. You'd be better off if you didn't take 4 years to figure it out. You started putting it to begin with. I know it's laborious. I know it's annoying. Most of the time you go, why am I doing this? It seems like a huge waste of time. But if my experience has shown me anything, is that if the first step in preparing a piece, if you do that, if you put the fingerings, you have this consistent starting space to work from. So let's say you work on something and then you had another job you needed to work on and then you come back to it, you're not starting from scratch again. There's actually a reference point. So that's number one. Number two is keep revising because it's very rare that you get the right answer the first time around unless it's very simple. Keep revising, keep changing, keep thinking of other alternatives. Yeah, this is really, really important. Can we get this on camera, like the difference between the size of our hands? Yeah, not the same, not the same. So what's worked for my hand, not necessarily going to work for Ezra over here. And I think that's really critical to remember. Because when you're looking at additions, and somebody said, to give you an example, oh yeah, this is very easy. Like, can you guys? For Ezra over here, he's going to have to break it, right?
Is that 10?
Yeah.
Oh god. Just barely.
Just barely. And I think it's important to remember, I mean, there are things that your hand is going to have an easier time doing, like going, in and out of the keys and what have you. And there's stuff that the big, massive chords are going to be easier for me because my hand is bigger. It doesn't mean that one is better than the other, it just means that they're different. And when we're looking at fingerings put especially by crazy editors and sometimes deranged composers, keep that in mind. They wrote what worked for them, for their training, for their understanding of the keyboard. It might not necessarily work for you. There are, of course, exceptions to that rule when Beethoven writes in 110-3, 131 on repeated note. There's a story behind it, so go study the story. But yeah, other than that, I think you should always make sure that it works for your hand. If it's not working, it's not working. Don't worry about it. Yeah, the next one is there's always another way. Let me repeat that. There's always, almost always another way. There very rarely is there just one option to do something. And you have to get creative. You have to think, well, this is not working for me. What else can work? So for example, at the beginning of the Revel Toccata, he writes to switch. But what about, isn't that a lot easier? Or even, or I could keep on trying, but it's endless. The options are endless. Just because he wrote doesn't mean that you have to do it. At the end of the day, it's really about the execution, and not about what the composer actually wrote in terms of fingering. If you can execute it better with the different fingerings, then you go for it. Yeah, this is maybe the most important one because I think we all really get stuck on this issue. If it's not working, it's not working. That's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's not working in the practice room, in your lesson, there's a very, very small chance it's going to work under pressure on stage. What's really sad about it is even in my old age of, I won't devolve, but in my old age, I still make that mistake. I'm thinking, just practice it. Just practice. Keep trying, keep working at it in different ways. It's going to work. And it very rarely does, because we get tight on stage. We get a little bit nervous. The little bit of control that we had in the practice room is now also kind of wobbly. If it didn't work, if it's not consistently working in your runs, in your practice, in your lessons, it's not going to work under pressure. There's a place in the fugue. It starts like this. I have to bring my left hand over. Again, you see, I can do it, except in performances, I always messed it up because I can't get that tenth comfortably. I have to break it. But because I was stubborn, I didn't change it. I didn't decide to break it. So my point in all of this is that when you are honest with yourself about what's working and what's working and what's not working, then you make better choices. But you have to be honest, and you have to admit to yourself that something, is problematic and something is actually not working. Another very famous example of this is when you have passages in octaves and you see a legato line over it. So Viola Sonata, Opus 120 by Brahms. And for my big hand, I can do it. It's fine. Do you want to try to do that and see what? Yes. I mean, we're not even going to embarrass you because it's not going to work. You have to make the conscious decision. Am I going to just try to play as legato as possible by doing this? And work on the phrasing so it's nice and smooth. Or you're going to actually try to do this fingering. For most of us who were trained in sort of the German or the Russian school, that you see octaves in legato, you have to change the fingers. You have to do 4-5, 4-5. In the case I just demonstrated, it makes sense. It's important to do that because the language of the music and the legato line is really, really important. In other cases where you have very fast octaves, again, we're going back to the toccata. I don't know if you can get it, but you could argue with me that 5-4-4-5 is easier, and I'm going to say I'm not going there. I'm just going to do the whole thing with fives because the hand stays in the same position. There is no rule. If it works for you, great. What has your experience been with this insanity?
I think the biggest issue was that I would write fingerings down. I'd spend a lot of time writing fingerings down, and then I'd go to play the fingerings, and I would just end up changing them.
Oh, well, that's a biggie, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're all guilty of that. Especially on stage, as you suddenly go like, no, this is better. Uh-oh. I think that once you start thinking of your fingers as co-workers, and yes, you're in charge, you're the boss, you're telling them what to do. If you give them a command that is succinct, consistent, and easy to execute, they will gladly do it. They're really not there to mess with you. They're really there to cooperate with you and do what you want. If you give them a convoluted action to do, like, let's do 2-3, 2-3, 2-3, they're going to go like, no way, no how. So again, the point is you can change things, and maybe sometimes your fingers are going to tell you things. They're going to say, it's much easier for me to get this beautiful sound like this because there's weight on it and it sort of has this finality, or my favorite, karate chop. But sometimes this kind of sound has a lot of weight. It's legit. Yes, sometimes you need an accentuating point. You need something very forceful, very dramatic to make the musical point. Okay, so we are going to look. The first example that I have here is the seconda. What's that from?
This is from the Petite Suite.
Petit suite for two pianos, the seconda, so you were playing the second piano part, right?
I was.
And what was happening there?
I was changing fingers between takes and I was just missing notes, especially in that third measure. Yeah, and it was really difficult because I didn't have a set fingering, so I was literally just guessing every single time. 5, 2. Oh, I already didn't follow my fingerings.
All right, so let's go. Look at this really, really slowly. Left hand is doing 2, 5, 1, 3. Well, that's solid, right?
Yeah.
Then we see here Ezra at his best, switching numbers and dyslexia run amok, right? I do it too. But we have to be consistent. So you want to make sure that the 5 is on the bottom, the 1 is on top, right? So that works. 1, 2. Then you wrote. Oh, it's 5. Okay. Now, let's say you didn't want to go back to the thumb on the G. You could stay on 2, do 2, 5. Basically, what I'm saying is you don't have to switch back to the thumb. Maybe that's too many thumbs, and then you're stuck because then you have to go over. And now comes the big one, which is this. So again, from my hand, this is not a big deal. Were you arpeggiating? What were you doing?
Yeah, I rolled.
Get the 2, then 1, 3, 5, or 1, 2, 5, and then why 2, 1? Because the pedal is holding?
No. We'll do 2, 1 there because I like a little bit of dance in my fingerings. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's not a good fingering.
It doesn't move.
It's very hard. First of all, it's fast. How are you getting that? You're not getting it. So even if you prepare to arpeggiate, then I would just hold thumb with the pedal. Something like that. Okay, are you ready for this? Miracle. So what am I doing? I'm redistributing the music, and instead of trying to get tense, I'm just going 5, 2 in the right hand, then 4, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, whichever one you want.
That would have been nice to know for the concert 2 years ago.
He's sassing me. Yeah, but look, here's the thing. When I was your age, I'll never forget so many lessons, walking in, having slaved over something for a week, and wonderful Veda would be like, dig, 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 dig. And I would be, really? Really? You could have spared me a week of agonizing over this with this beautiful fingering you just came up with? And then I had to ask myself, at what point do you take responsibility and you stop counting on your teacher to figure out your crap for you and you actually do the work?
I'm getting satisfied.
Yeah, just look, of course, when it comes to very difficult passages, I'm always up for working with people for hours and hours until we figure out what's going to work. But there are two important things here. One is the constant challenging of yourself that this is hard, this is not good for me. What will be? That basic question is already going to put you in a position that you're looking for a better answer. Don't just accept what's here. What's a better way for me to do it? And the second thing, I think I told you, it came from the work that we did with Shuffle and having 30 pieces that had to be ready for one concert. And from being somebody who was sort of very flexible with the fingerings and we'll see what happens and blah, blah, blah. When you have 30 pieces, you have to know them. There's no maybe or ifs. You have to play this now, can you? And if you don't have, and luckily for me, I always had the score with me and I had my fingerings. So even if, for a second I was like, how does this go? The answer was looking at me in the face. So I never had to look too hard for the answer. But my point is, it forced me to be merciless with myself about what works and what doesn't. Because maybe there was a fancy fingering that worked in theory, but if it couldn't work right now, as the last piece in the program, as the first piece in the program, as the middle piece in the program, If it didn't work, it didn't work, and that was the end of it.
The third thing is, don't sass Eliran. Don't do it. It's not worth it, because you'll get destroyed and then lectured. That's the worst part.
Okay, let's jump to the MESSIAEN. Okay, so what's happening here? Ooh. Yeah, this is not user-friendly, isn't it? Big question here is, in the middle line, what should be played by the left hand and what should be played by the right hand, right?
Yeah.
First beat. Okay, this I already not like because the hands are clashing, right? You see this? This is not fun. So either the left hand is going to go under the right hand or vice versa. I think in this case, left hand should go under. Yeah, this way you're keeping them sort of separate from one another, not bumping. Why did you put the 3 and 4 on the F sharp and E?
The short answer, and the wrong answer, is that I wrote in these fingerings 20 minutes before I ran to the studio to record this episode.
Is that easier for you?
For my hand.
What about 2-3?
Yeah.
The reason why I'm saying 2-3 is because you're going to have to go to the A natural in 2 seconds, right? So
Right.
the A is going to be a little wobbly if it's 4 and 5 here. But if it's 2 and 3, it's already sitting there. So I would do, left hand is what you wrote. I would put 2 on the C. I would not put 3. I think there's no reason to put. Just, again, this is a rule of thumb. If you can keep your fingers in a 5-finger position, do it.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you security. You know what finger is hitting what note. Third beat. I know that I have to change. Okay, this is a really great example where we now made a decision that this entire section has to be in the left hand, right? So we're now processing it differently. We know that the G is with the pinky. I have to have the B flat and the D, then the E, then the B flat and the C. So you have 2 options. You can just go 5 and then put the fingerings like this. You understand what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Another way of doing it is to help yourself by simply putting the D here and the C here. So you now see it as you're actually playing it. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm doing here. Number 1, even though the score is written in this way where it's not clear which hand is supposed to play which part, we are redistributing the notation.
Right.
2, we're being very careful about what the left hand is doing and how it's notated so your brain doesn't get confused. The bottom voices are going sort of above the middle voice, which is confusing to the brain. So at least with the notation of the fingers, we're trying to keep it consistent.
Yeah.
Reintegrating the middle voice into the bass line, into the left-hand part, it becomes very simple to execute. So it took us about, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
I sometimes do this with people. You take a piece of paper, I don't know if you guys can see, and you sort of just focus on the first beat and just solve that. And then move the paper, solve the next beat, solve the next beat. And that's how you make progress. Oh, yay! 2. Excellent. Excellent. Now why switch to 2 there?
I did that so you can get to the 2 on the F when it goes down next measure.
Dude, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh.
And what we learn in this example, don't complicate things that ain't complicated. This in a concert, first of all, you're jumping a note, you have to tuck the thumb under, and then you have to get it back to the A. What's more simple? This or...
Yeah, not that.
We all do stupid. So don't do that. 1, 2, 3. Same thing. Yeah, so that's my only correction here would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here the same thing. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Right hand. So we have this. We have supposed to hold the thumb, so this is important. Right? Then. This is dangerous because you might get locked here. I'm just going to put this in parentheses that you might want to consider 2 on the B natural. The reason being, this, you know, if you see the 4-3 here, ain't so user friendly. If you just go 2-1-2, 4-2-5, 2-1, you have all of those B with the same finger. You don't have to switch. So that's a really small tweak, but it could be really helpful in context to not have to have that spread between the 4 and the 3. It's just a simple rotation. Sorry, not that simple, clearly. 2-1-2, 4-2-5, 2-1. Same thing. I think 2. 4-2-5. So yeah, so I would change this C to a 2, and then 4-2, 4-2-5, 2-1-2. You're doing it here. Great. Then what? How the hell did you get to that? Okay. You're complicated things that are not complicated. I'm a member of that club. I'm a member. So, but I learned how to curb my enthusiasm. If it looks like, or no, 4-2-5, 2-1-2, 3-4-5, 3-1-2, 3-4. You end up with the same finger, but I didn't move anything. Do you need me to say that slower? What?
Nothing. I get it.
So we're here. We're the third beat of the second measure. We were on. Here you have to switch. Let's do your fingers just so we can see the problem. I'm doing 2, 3, 4, 3. That's already awkward. Then 2-1.
That doesn't belong on the keyboard.
Ain't going to work.
So actually, after reviewing the surveillance footage, I did not mean to do 2-1. I meant to do 1-2. And I'm not sure what that is. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Or before you get wrecked by your studio professor. This has also been another PSA. Thank you.
Here you have to switch. We got to 1-2. Switch to the thumb. Yeah, to the thumb. Yeah, this is not going to work either. I like the 4. I agree with you about the 4. Then yeah, this is not easy.
Damn, bro, I can't figure this out.
Okay, so let's slow down. So here's the trick. 5, 3, 4, 5. You wrote 4, which is a good starting point, but it doesn't really solve the problem because then you have to cross over the rest in the third beat. But if you go 5, 3, 4, 5, 5, then 2, 3, 5, 2, 1, and then you're set. It's a radical shift from the pinky on the A to pinky on the D, but it solves the rest of the measure. And I would not necessarily switch here to stay on 4-2, thumb, switch here to 3. So then what you wrote, yeah. To sum up, Ezra, what did we learn today in class?
Put in your fingerings.
Put in your fingering. I know it's annoying. I know, I feel the pain, but I really think you solve so much of future problems by just taking the time and writing it in. You want the notation to remind you what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And I think with that, we are complete. Thank you for joining us. Leave us questions below. Let us know if you have issues with passages, and we'll be happy to do a video about that passage, and we'll see you next time on episode next. Yeah. Bye.
love a spot of tea right now.